Thanks for tuning in to the Urban Scope podcast. I'm back with more sports news, more NFL news specifically. Now, I seen an article a couple of days ago that asked if the Kansas City Chiefs window, title window is closing. Now, I'm not going to overreact because of the Super Bowl loss that they had in a dramatic fashion that they lost in, because we've seen them recover before after they lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in an excruciating loss, a very dramatic, um, surprising, shocking loss that they had, especially with the lack of offense they were able to generate, the amount of defense that the defense was giving up. It was a lot of different things, but they've recovered before, and it was the same theme in both of those losses, which was the offensive line. Now, this is not what this discussion is rooted in. This discussion is rooted in specifically to the championship window closing simply because of general or sheer fatigue. And then, for one, just lack of motivation. Because we know after you winning so many times and things become mundane, things become the same. So, can you rekindle that fire? Can you get new pieces that will reignite or reinvigorate or replenish what you're trying to do as a team and an organization? Now, the Kansas City Chiefs have a great coach in Andy Reid, so I believe he can get those guys motivated. But sometimes the having the same coach and hearing the same voice becomes stagnant, and you don't want to hear it anymore. Especially if you've been there for the longest Patrick Mahomes has, the longest Travis Kelsey has, Chris Jones has, and others. But um, the general fatigue of them just going to 5 Super Bowls in the last 6 seasons can be very taxing on the body as well. We saw what Travis Kelsey looked like at the end of the season, what he looked like in the Super Bowl. We're starting to see what Patrick Mahomes is looking like. He's looking very battered and looking very bruised. He's not looking like the same quarterback we were introduced to at the start, where everyone's excited about this play of him making left-handed passes, making these 50-yard touchdown passes. But of course, he had Tyreek Hill. A lot of things were different, but he's starting to look very average now. And no one really knows the reason why. Maybe because, like I said, it's general fatigue. Maybe it's just lack of interest. But there are a lot of things into play. But I'll break down the division and talk about how the Kansas City Chiefs will pretty much be automatic bid qualifiers every year for just at least the playoffs. So they really don't have to worry about that. But their problem is other things, which I'll get into. Um, and luckily for the Chiefs, the division they're in, the other teams are pretty much in a rebuild mode trying to figure it out. So the Chargers, Broncos, Raiders are all teams that, for the most part, are missing key pieces, and most of them don't really have a quarterback or are not sure of their quarterback. So the Chargers, thinking about their draft and additions for the offseason, they had drafted Omarion Hampton, the running back from North Carolina, and Trey Harris, the receiver from Ole Miss. They added pieces like Najee Harry, Mekhi Becton, and Dante Jackson. But is this enough? More than likely not. They have a lot of young pieces. Mekhi Becton's a little bit older, I believe. Najee Harris, for some reason, hasn't translated to the NFL like we thought he would, especially coming out of that powerhouse in Alabama. Um, and Dante Jackson is a solid cornerback, so we'll see if he, able to help them, especially with them re-signing Khalil Mack. But how many years does he have left on the tires? But for the most part, they won't be a factor for the Chiefs because their quarterback situation. He seems to have a ceiling. He's a very dynamic quarterback. He's not a game manager, but at the same time, he doesn't appear to be that quarterback. So, um, thinking about him, and um, I don't think that'll be enough for the Chiefs. So the Chiefs shouldn't have anything to worry about there. The Broncos, they drafted Jaden Barron and RJ Harvey. RJ Harvey from UCF. They added Evan Ingram, Dre Greenlaw, Talango Hufanga, um, which are all solid pieces, especially on that defensive end. Evan Ingram, I'm not too sure about him. He might be on the downside, but nevertheless, solid defensive pieces. But they have Bo Nix, but we saw what he did in his rookie year. But can he build upon that, or will he prove to be fool's gold? So I still don't think they have anything to worry about there because Bo Nix is a little game managed. He doesn't really have, you know, runners on the outside to compete with or beat people one on one. So we'll see what he'll be able to do. Will he have to use more of his legs than his arms? And if he have to do that, that's not a formula for success. So we'll see how far Bo Nix can get you, but I don't think they're a true threat to the Kansas City Chiefs. And then lastly, the Raiders, who drafted Ashton Jeanty, of course, from Boise State, the Heisman runner-up. A very dynamic runner who I think will give them a great boost to their offense. But once again, they have Geno Smith at quarterback, and they don't really have elite receivers. They have a great tight end that they just drafted, well, who will be coming on his sophomore season or second year in the league. But, you could pretty much double him because they don't have anybody on the outside really to get win on one-on-ones. But they added Raheem Mostert and Alex Capps, which Mostert, I don't know, he has brought Voss a lot of speed, but he's probably won't be the starting running back. He'll be an additional piece of receiving back out of the backfield. Give Ashton Jeanty that gives them breathers and things like that. But for the most part, if you're playing the Raiders, you can put 6 or 7 in the box and pretty much stop the run because you're not, really thinking Geno Smith can beat you on the outside or beat you with his arm. Pause. So I don't think the Raiders are definitely not a problem for the Chiefs. Now, the Chiefs' problems won't be until they get to the playoffs and they have to play people outside their division. When they have to play, the Ravens, or they have to play the Bills, or have to play people from other conferences in the Super Bowl like the Eagles did, or had to pay the Buccaneers. That's when their problem their problem clashes. When they have to play someone with elite defensive line play and great defensive players and great defensive coordinators and schemes, that's going to be their true issue because they have such a cakewalk through the division. When they play other teams, they don't know how to deal with the adversity, whether it be, the deterioration of Travis Kelce or the distraction of Taylor Swift or, Patrick Mahomes, whatever he's going through at the time. They have so many different things to worry about. In their division, they can just go through it, even though a lot of those games are tight games, but we don't really think those teams can beat the Chiefs. We think that, maybe if the Chiefs have a bad day, turn the football over a couple of times, that they can sneak a win out there in the regular season, but they're never going to beat them in a division. Chiefs don't play in divisional rounds ever, but if they ever play them anytime in the playoffs, they're not going to beat them. Or if they, see them any other time, they're not really going to beat the Chiefs. They're not really a threat. But nevertheless, the Chiefs just has, they don't want to run the football, even though you have very physical running backs, because the Chiefs are a finesse team and in its totality, or essentially are a finesse team. So, but they have very physical running backs in Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco who run the football very hard, but they don't want to run the football and it become one dimensional, and people can just run sitting back in cover two and just, pin their ears back and in the line can pin their back and go get the quarterback. So the Chiefs do not want to run the football, which they have great running backs. Doesn't make sense, but that's Andy Reid's pretty much formula throughout his whole career. Even when teams, used to run the football a lot, Andy Reid was still passing it. Then they have receivers that are unproven, and Rashee Rice, who has a lot of legal trouble, so he might have to sit down, especially after turning his LCL. So he has to deal with that, and he has to deal with the league after his pending legal investigation that he's going through. Xavier Worthy, still young. He'll be in his second season coming back, but can he actually prove to be, to grow as a player and a route runner? That's yet to be seen. They bring back Juju Smith-Schuster, which is, he's on the downside. He's not explosive as he used to be when he first came out. So they have a lot of different issues there, but they'll probably have another 3 years for a title contention before they have to hang it up and just become another team in the bunch. So it'll be interesting to see. But as always, until next time, I'll see you next time.